Today I'm going to photograph the forest with the 50mm lens. Hey everyone, my name is Toma, Phototom here on YouTube, and this channel is all about landscape and travel photography. So if you're interested in this kind of topics, make sure to subscribe for more. Now, if you're interested in my workshops, my instructional videos, or my ebook that I'm pretty sure in 1 or 2 weeks it's gonna be ready, finally, make sure to check the link in the description of this video. You go to my website and there you find all the details. I'm gonna use my full frame Canon EOS R and this forest behind me. So let's go. Right from the start I'm stopping over here because as you can see I have this beautiful trail that goes, I have the trees on one side and the other, and I think this creates a really interesting image. Now I have to see how I frame it using the 50mm lens. A very important tip, this is something that I also put in my ebook. I think it's very important for your eye to get used to different focal lengths, and this means understanding what the camera is going to see, not your eye, when you're going to use a certain focal length. Now with a 50mm lens, that problem is not too much of a problem, mainly because the focal length of the eye is almost 50mm, but we have to exclude the peripheral vision that includes all sorts of elements.
I could almost swear my heart gets colder with the air.
So for this shot, what I'm seeing in the distance is that light over there. Whoopsie! And I used an aperture of 3.2 ISO 100 and the exposure time is 1/10 of a second. I intend to use the fast aperture of the 50mm lens, but I also want to have everything in focus. So I will balance everything. There are occasions when I will like to have only the subject or the point of focus in sharpness, and I will blur the rest, but we'll talk about it. And now I'm going to advance into the forest, hoping that I'm going to see some fog, because it was a rainy night, it's cold in the morning, and who knows, maybe I'm going to see some fog.
It gets hard to say the things that I don't mean. I can almost see when I'm looking back at me, the point at which I felt my faith break free.
I'm always following the light. I'm always searching for places of darkness from where I can see the light. This is my way of photographing the forest. And of course I'm also searching for compositions and interesting subjects, but I think it's very important to not only follow the light, but understand how the light affects your photo, your scene, and the direction of the light, and where the light is placed in relation to you, the subject, the composition. These are all very important things, and you can learn them only by photographing again and again and again. For example, in my ebook, I decided to have some chapters about the subject, about the importance of composition, and talk about the rules of composition, but I also have 50 case studies. And I think this is the most easiest way and practical way to learn. When I'm showing you a photo, I'm telling you the settings, I'm telling you why I'm using those settings, the composition of the light and the editing and so on. For example, for this area over here, we have the trees, these two trees that act like stopping elements. They don't let the attention of the viewer to escape to either side. And then we have the beautiful light. Now you also see the sky, those white patches. So probably I'm going to avoid them by framing everything a little tighter, moving a little bit to the left, and also seeing the trail that goes in the distance. Again, I have ISO 100 and the aperture is 3.2, but the exposure time, because the forest becomes darker and darker as we advance into it, so the exposure time is 1/6 of a second.
As I shook beneath my bones, felt your arms around my throat. You said please.
Now For this photo I went with an aperture of 6.3 and an exposure time of 0.8 seconds. Forcing yourself to use a 50mm lens, that's a fixed focal length. It makes you think in a different way. You can't zoom, you have to zoom with your legs, and you train your eye to see the way the lens is seeing. Now, as you can see, this trail over here, that's my subject for this photo. It's really, really narrow. It has really tall trees, so the framing is in vertical mode, and it's something that you also have to train yourself to see and to understand when it's best to photograph in a landscape format and when it's best to photograph in a portrait format. I see some fog over there behind me. That's the place from where I'm coming, so I'm going back a little bit to take a few shots.
You said please, but I don't believe anything.
Now what's nice about this area, it's the light that it's coming from outside the forest, and that adds a lot to the scene because it lights up the fog, and you have the trees, the trunk of the trees. It's like they're looking like silhouettes, but in light. It's a very pleasant image to look at. For this image, I switched to f8, 1.3 seconds. I wanted to make sure, absolutely sure, that everything is in focus. I stopped again for another shot, and it's a trail that goes into the distance over there, into the light. Again, a vertical framing with f8 and 0.6 seconds. So I'm finding that the more I'm using the 50mm lens, I like the challenge, but I find that I'm using the open aperture in very few shots. I think it's something that I can't escape, this constraint that I have to have everything in focus. I'll force myself for the next shot to find something that works in an open aperture. But for this shot I used f8. I have the beautiful trail that goes into the distance. There's light in the distance, there is mystery, you're wondering what's out there, so it looks really well. I came closer to the same, in the same shot, on the same trail. I'm doing the same framing, but I'm doing it in a horizontal way. And what I noticed is that right where the light begins, there's an area of darkness. So I exposed for the light, and what happened was that the trees became silhouette. And now I'm having a really dark and beautiful and powerful contrast between light and darkness. Again, I'm at f8, 0.3 seconds, and I think it looks really well. You can see the rich green. Even though I'm not having a polarizer on this lens, you still have that feeling of green and fog and light in the distance. The bad thing is that it's starting to rain, and I hope it doesn't affect my photo shoot. I like to stay some more in the forest. It's the first serious fog from this year. It's a sign that summer is starting to it's on its way out, and autumn it's on its way in. But I don't want the rain to go really hard on me. I have a rain jacket, or a rain cover, better said. We'll just have to hike and see. I'm rushing to get into an area of the forest where there are a lot more trees, simply because the rain over here is falling badly and I don't want to get wet. Okay. I'm also seeing the fog right there in the distance, so let's hurry up. I had many moments when the fog ended up quickly, so that's why I'm running. I want to make sure that I'm getting at least one photo. And there it is. There is the fog and I'll just start photographing. We'll talk a bit later when I catch my breath. From this position right here, I have two photos. In that direction over there, when I'm using a 2.8 aperture and 1/13 of a second, and I have another photo in this direction where I have the trail that goes into an S shape. This lens is really wide and you don't realize it, but with a 50mm lens, this one is going to look okay, and this one it's going to look again very, very well. I'm trying to pay a close attention, really close attention to the amount of light I'm letting in my shot. I think it's very important if you like photographing moody landscapes like I do. I really like dramatic light, dramatic atmosphere, dramatic weather. But for that to go from this location to you, the viewer, in the photo, I think you need a moody, dramatic approach. So I'm exposing in a certain way that I'm letting a little bit of light into the shot, but not too much light into the shot. And for the moment, I'm really lucky. The leaves of the trees are keeping the rain away from me, hoping for the best. Over here, I have a lot of light coming from the left side of the photo, and then I have the darkness of the trail. And this is the way I'm exposing this scene. So again, I like the light, but I also like the darkness and the silhouettes of the trunk trees. And keeping a balance between these two, I think it creates that moody, creepy atmosphere. I mean, Halloween is almost here. Not exactly almost here, but we're still 2 months away. But it doesn't matter. I mean, we can go creepy and moody anytime. Now, paying attention 360 degrees around you, of course, it's a second nature for a landscape photographer. I just walked a few meters into one direction, then I turned and looked and saw this framing with that tree over there, and again the beautiful trail that goes into the background. It looks okay. The rain is starting to get through the trees.
I can almost swear my heart gets colder with the air, and it gets hard to say the things that I don't mean. I can almost see when I'm looking back at me, the point at which I felt my faith break free. As I shook beneath my bones.
There are occasions when it's okay and it's almost something that it's a tip or a suggestion. Whenever you're photographing in landscape mode, try and see if you find a composition that works in portrait mode. Having these two framings, these two different framings, it will help you a lot, especially because these days a lot of us are posting on TikTok or maybe Instagram or whatever other mobile social networks that are created for photographers or videographers. It's better to have two versions of the same shot. Of course, you're going to have to think differently a little bit, because framing it in portrait mode requires another composition probably, or another place or another point from where to photograph, but you just have to put in the work. Over here, I really like how the trail goes, the light that's coming from the left, the dark trunks of the trees, and the settings, let me just check, are f8, 0.3 seconds, and ISO 100. And with this final shot, I have to end this vlog over here. I'm really sorry for doing that. I would have loved to photograph some more, but the rain is starting to come down really heavy, so I'll have to stop over here. I hope you like this first foggy forest photography vlog with a 50mm lens. If you have questions, if you have suggestions, just use the comment section below. Share this video with your friends, subscribe, and what else? Until next time, keep on photographing because it's the only way to get better. Bye bye.